Hey there, welcome to the garden. So today I have a fun little project. I've got a few extra tomatoes and I'm gonna plant at least one of them into a container. So I thought I would just talk through container tomatoes. One of my favorite ways to grow tomatoes. There's so many fun combinations you can do with containers and growing different vegetables, and you could put like a tomato in a container with some nasturtiums or a basil or different flowers. Today I'm actually going to plant one with an extra marigold plant that I have. Another great way to just, add a little bit of color to your garden, but also get a little bit of produce, and yeah, just have fun. So you do want to look for determinate style tomatoes. Depending on your size container, you may want to go for actually like a micro dwarf tomato, so something like a Tiny Tim, or Baker Creek has like the Orange Hat and Micro Toms, which are teeny tiny little, they get I think that mature height is like 8 inches, so you can grow them in a tiny little container. I got these little bush, what are they called? I started most of my tomatoes from seed, but I got these Better Bush tomatoes. They came in a 6-pack, and I used a couple for my hanging basket project, but I've got a few left. So now I need to find some space. It doesn't really say, let's see, how tall. Grow in rows 36 inches apart. So while this is a bush tomato, I think it's gonna actually get fairly big. I don't think it's gonna be like one of the micro tomatoes, but I'm just gonna go ahead and push the limits and grow it in this little 6-inch pot just to kind of see what happens. Probably not the perfect location for it, but you can grow, like the micro toms or something like that would be actually completely happy in this container. We'll do one as a test round, and then I'm going to find some other places in the garden to grow tomatoes. But tomatoes do super well in containers as long as you have the right size. So if you have like an indeterminate tomato that's going to get really tall, you want to get maybe like a 15-gallon grow bag that has at least a few gallons of soil space for the tomato so that it has room to grow. If you have a determinate variety, you can go for like maybe like a 10-inch 12-inch pot, and then if you have a micro tomato, you can even do like the little 6-inch pots or something like that. So let's see, where do you think we should put some extra tomato plants? Okay, so I'm going to really push the limits, and I'm also going to plant in this pot, which is going to be really small, a little marigold. Marigolds are a great companion plant. I think they're supposed to kind of repel bugs a little bit as well, so we'll put that to the test. And then one of these Better Bush tomatoes. And with tomatoes, they're one that you can bury a little bit deep, although I'm gonna have to take out some soil to do that. There we go. We'll put that soil back in here and put these two. You can always push the limits a little bit and see what happens. How cute, as a little pot on your patio, and then they'll just continue to fill out and really fill this container. Oops. So that'll be a fun container, and then now I just need to figure out what I want to do with these other tomato plants. I have 3 tomato plants, and I don't really have room. I may actually take them over to the garden plot. So a friend and I have a space at a community garden plot, and we're a little late in some of our planting this year, but I think we do have space over there for some tomatoes. So I think I will go ahead and take those tomatoes to the plot. They're really beautiful tomatoes, and they'll grow really well in ground as well. And the nice thing about the more determinate bush style tomatoes is you don't have to do as much pruning and staking, and it's so much easier. With these tomatoes in the containers, I don't typically stake them unless they really start falling over, and then maybe I'll just put in like a little bamboo stake. Sometimes I'll take one of those 3-foot bamboo stakes and just like cut it in half and put part of it in a container just to hold up the tomatoes a little bit. But I typically also just let them bush out. I don't do any kind of trimming or pruning. Just let them kind of fill out and fill in the container, and they usually end up looking really good. And it's usually really, really pretty. While I'm out here, I am going to water some of my other container tomatoes. So these are some of those micro tomatoes, some Tiny Tims, and there's a patio choice and a few other micro tomatoes that are growing in this little hay rack planter over here. This is my unheated greenhouse that I just took the frame off, took off the cover, and I've been using the frame as kind of a growing space. And I decided to put this hay rack here with all of the tomatoes, and they've been doing super well. As you can see, I've got these micro tomatoes here in this hay rack, and they're doing beautifully and already putting on a lot of little flowers. If you like a really nice little cherry tomato, I recommend the Tiny Tims. I get my seeds from at my gardener, and I really like those. They've always been a really good producer. The plant gets a couple feet wide. It's not the most micro plant, but it's really nice. And then I've got a couple more tomatoes in 1 gallon containers that are doing really well too. So yeah, it's just, tomatoes are such a great container plant. If you're looking to have a little patio garden, or you just want to put, even if you have a big garden, you want to do a container with some edibles, tomatoes are wonderful. And they're also one that can dry out just a little bit. Obviously you don't want to let any plant be wilting all the time, but tomatoes, the fruits actually tend to taste better if the plant has had a little bit of stress and has dried down just a little bit. So having them in a container is not necessarily the worst thing. Containers just tend to usually dry out faster, obviously, unless you have a drainage issue. So I find that they're usually pretty happy because they don't mind the fact that they do dry down. They don't want to have their roots, just soaking in water or anything, and it tends to work out really well. I've had lots of fun tomato containers in the past and really enjoy it. I think my favorite tomato container combination is to do nasturtiums, basil, and tomatoes, or tomatoes and like a calibrachoa or petunia, which also kind of don't mind drying down a little bit. Those are such cute containers and just so much fun to have in the garden space. Oh, we got such a pretty evening here. I think I'm just gonna kind of water. I just watered a little bit. I'm gonna keep watering out here, trying to make sure the containers are getting enough water, because we are getting into that season where it's getting hot. And the last week and a half, we really haven't had any rain. So I've been watering a ton. I would welcome a little bit of rain these days, and I do need to fill up the container pond as well. I actually adjusted the container pond. I'll give you a little bit of an update. So I added a new fountain, as you can see. I put in this little fountain. This was just like a little fountain kit that I found, I think at Lowe's. So nothing fancy. I'm gonna fill up the container pond today because it's obviously the water level has gone down a bit. But yeah, I found this cute little fountain and it's been working super well. It was really easy to set up. I do still have to get the cord buried. I'm thinking I'm gonna go ahead maybe this week and try to find a bog plant for in here just to help with the filtration. Although I feel like the water is pretty clear. We've got a little bit of algae, but not too much. And the fish have been seeming to be pretty happy. This is nice too because you can extend it, so I can just pull this up and make the fountain a little bit taller when I fill up the water in the pond. And I just am gonna put in a water conditioner. So I always condition the water before I fill it up to make sure that we don't have any issues, because I'm on tap water here. So I just have this it's a stress coat that also gets rid of chlorine and heavy metals and everything like that. And it's super important if you have tap water, if it's not raining, if the rainwater fills up your pond, then that's great. But if you aren't getting enough rain, the pond's not filling up, make sure you put something in the water, otherwise it'll hurt the fish. And I learned that the hard way the first season that I had this container pond. It was really sad. So I learned to always use this. Even just filling it up an inch or so, I still always condition it just to be safe, because fish are super sensitive. And I feel like it's also good to help the plants and everything too, that they don't suffer from any of the things in the water. But I'm loving having this little fountain here, and you get such a nice sound, just like a little trickle of water when you're out in the garden. This container pond has been the absolute best thing that I have done in this garden. It's been so nice and just so fun to see the fish. They're thriving, they're getting big. It's kind of cool. I've got three or four little ruby red minnows, and then a few goldfish in there as well. Not too many fish, but I think we've hit like a good balance, and I just need to figure out a bog plant situation for the container pond, but we'll work on that. There we go. Got it all filled. Looking so nice. This is just so much fun. Absolutely love it. So yeah, once we get the bog plant in here, then that will be all hidden, and I think it'll be even nicer. But I'm really excited to see the lily pads are doing well. The hornwort is looking beautiful, and doing their job keeping the water clear. It's awesome. Oh, there's a goldfish. Well, anyways, that is just my evening in the garden. So nice to get out here after the sun is set. It's cooling down. We've been getting kind of chilly nights still, but beautiful days in the 70s. The garden is just looking so good. I'm so happy with so many blooms. I wish the camera could pick up what this foxglove and the blossoms from the rat's tail radishes, I wish it could pick up what that looks like. It's so beautiful in real life. Oh my gosh, I absolutely adore it. And we're getting more blooms on the foxglove, which is really exciting to see. So hopefully we'll have more flowers here too. And then I don't know, the second foxglove plant, I don't know if we've got a bloom stalk on it yet or not. It looks like maybe. I've got to come in here and do a little trimming and care, because my this is my Russian sage is getting a little bit choked out, and I do want to make sure. I may have to end up moving that because the foxgloves are getting so big. So that may be one that I need to come in and find a new spot for. I think I will add that to my list. I think it would be good to move them. Stay tuned. We will find another home for that plant. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.